Hello and welcome back to our channel NPA Discovery, where the truth behind Hollywood legends gets the stage it deserves. If you're new here, this is a space where we dive beneath the surface, shedding light on the triumphs and tragedies of stars who shaped our world. If stories of grit, heartbreak, and resilience move you, make sure to like, share, and subscribe. Your support keeps these important narratives alive. The starlet from Hollywood royalty. Mia Farrow was born into the golden glow of Hollywood on February 9, 1945. Her parents, director John Farrow and actress Maureen O'Sullivan, were cinematic royalty, but Mia's early life was far from easy. Raised in a strict Roman Catholic household with 6 siblings, she learned discipline early, but also a quiet kind of creativity. Performing for her family and even waving to celebrity tour buses outside became part of her routine. Yet behind the sunshine was a shadow looming. At age 9, Mia was diagnosed with polio during a massive outbreak in Los Angeles County. Quarantined alone for 3 painful weeks, the illness marked a turning point in her childhood. Later in life, she would call it the moment her innocence ended. It was also the moment her emotional endurance began. Most people don't realize that Mia Farrow's career started far earlier than her big breaks. At just 2 years old, she appeared in a short documentary. Then, at 13, she played a small role in her father's film, John Paul Jones. These weren't just early experiences, they were silent foundations for a woman who would spend her entire life balancing public exposure with private pain. She also moved in rarefied circles. Her family was friends with the Beatles. In fact, the classic song, Dear Prudence, was written for Mia's younger sister by none other than John Lennon. But that proximity to fame was both a gift and a curse. One of the most chilling real-life ironies in her story is this: Mia's apartment in New York was next to the Dakota, the very place where Lennon was later assassinated, and where exterior scenes for her most iconic film, Rosemary's Baby, were filmed. It's a connection that's more than eerie, it's almost poetic. A house of fame and fire. Mia's relationship with her father, John Farrow, was turbulent at best. After the death of her older brother Michael in 1958, John spiraled into alcoholism and domestic violence. When Mia was only 17, he died from a heart attack. Though traumatic, his passing catalyzed a transition in Mia's life, one where she began carrying the burden for her struggling family. Her mother, Maureen, began appearing in Broadway plays to pay the bills. Meanwhile, Mia embraced her ethereal looks and began modeling. That path led her directly into the spotlight when she was cast in the popular soap Peyton Place. As Allison Mackenzie, Mia appeared in over 250 episodes. But fame, as we'll soon see, came at a devastating cost. One of the most significant, and scandalous, turning points in Mia's life was her relationship with Frank Sinatra. At 21, she married the legendary crooner who was 30 years her senior. While some viewed their union as a fairy tale, it quickly became a cautionary tale. Sinatra insisted that she give up her acting career to be a traditional housewife. And shockingly, she agreed, walking away from Peyton Place at the height of her success. But as fate would have it, the opportunity of a lifetime soon arrived, and with it, the greatest test of her life. A baby, a divorce, a breakthrough. Rosemary's Baby, directed by Roman Polanski, was poised to be a cinematic landmark. Mia Farrow was cast as the lead, Rosemary Woodhouse, a vulnerable yet determined woman caught in a web of paranoia and dark forces. But behind the scenes, the horror was all too real. Polanski reportedly forced Mia to walk into actual New York traffic for a scene. His twisted justification: no one will hit a pregnant woman. It was both reckless and disturbing, but Mia, perhaps still trying to prove her worth after years of being told what to do, complied. The role became a sensation. Critics adored her performance. The film remains iconic. But the accolades came with a brutal cost. Frank Sinatra served her divorce papers in the middle of production. He was furious that she chose her career over him. Mia almost quit the film. But a studio executive convinced her otherwise, promising Oscar glory. Though she never received the nomination, her role in Rosemary's Baby is still considered one of the greatest performances in horror history. The snub, in many ways, only solidified her legacy. And perhaps more importantly, it was the moment Mia Farrow took her power back. The Phoenix Rises. After Rosemary's Baby, Mia was no longer just a starlet, she was a force to be reckoned with. Determined to pursue more serious roles, she teamed up with cinematic legends like Elizabeth Taylor, Robert Mitchum, and Dustin Hoffman. But she also made a daring move that few American actresses at the time dared to make. She joined the prestigious Royal Shakespeare Company in 1971, becoming the first American actress to do so. In this London-based chapter of her life, Mia proved her range and depth as a performer. She took on complex roles in critically acclaimed stage productions and solidified her standing as more than just a pretty face. She was now considered a serious actress with considerable emotional gravitas. But Mia Farrow's story was never just about her career. Her personal life, always complex, often controversial, would soon take center stage again. Her relationship with famed composer Andre Previn seemed promising at first. They married in 1970 and had 6 children together, 3 biological and 3 adopted. However, their union was not without its shadows. Previn had left his previous wife, songwriter Dory Previn, for Mia. The fallout was public and poetic. Dory later wrote the song, "Beware of Young Girls," a thinly veiled attack on Mia. Their marriage lasted nearly a decade, but by 1979, they divorced. And it was after this split that Mia entered perhaps the most scandalous and painful relationship of her life, with Woody Allen. The calm before the firestorm. Woody Allen and Mia Farrow's relationship began with creative fire and emotional intensity. They never married, but for 13 years, they were partners both in love and in film. Their collaboration began with 1982's A Midsummer Night's Sex comedy, a role originally intended for Allen's former muse, Diane Keaton. Soon, Mia became Allen's new cinematic muse. The two made 13 films together, including critically acclaimed titles like The Purple Rose of Cairo, Hannah and Her Sisters, and Crimes and Misdemeanors. Mia stretched her acting capabilities with each project, bringing nuance, vulnerability, and complexity to every character she portrayed. Audiences fell in love with her talent all over again. Off-screen, their blended family was growing. Mia adopted 2 children as a single mother, Moses and Dylan, and later, she and Allen adopted them together. They also had a biological son, Ronan Farrow. But even as this unconventional family took shape, storm clouds were gathering on the horizon. Their final film together, Husbands and Wives, in which Allen's character cheats on his wife, would become an eerie mirror to real life. Because by 1992, their world would unravel in a scandal so disturbing, it changed the public's perception of Woody Allen forever. The scandal that shook Hollywood. By the early 90s, the once harmonious facade of Mia Farrow and Woody Allen's life came crashing down. In January 1992, Mia discovered something so disturbing it would make headlines around the world, and forever alter public opinion of one of cinema's most acclaimed directors. While visiting Allen's Manhattan apartment, Mia found a set of nude photographs of her adopted daughter, Soon Previn. Soon, at the time, was a young woman Mia had raised since childhood. The betrayal was as personal as it was public. When confronted, Allen admitted that he and Soon had been in a relationship. To say this was shocking is a gross understatement. It wasn't just an affair, it felt like a complete collapse of trust, a blurring of familial lines that most couldn't comprehend. Soon was 21 years old. Allen was in his mid-50s. Their relationship wasn't just controversial, it sparked one of the most disturbing scandals in entertainment history. And it didn't end there. Shortly after, another, even darker accusation emerged. 7-year-old Dylan Farrow, whom Allen and Mia had adopted together, told her mother that Woody Allen had inappropriately touched her. Mia immediately reported the incident to authorities. The ensuing investigation was harrowing, dividing fans, friends, and even the legal system. Allen, for his part, denied all allegations and claimed Mia had coached Dylan in a fit of revenge. He filed for full custody of Dylan, Moses, and Ronan. What followed was an intense, public custody battle, and an emotional marathon for Mia and her children. The court sided with Mia. Alan's request for custody was denied, and the judge criticized him for his behavior. A criminal investigation was conducted but ultimately dropped to spare Dylan from further trauma. Still, the shadow of that event has never fully lifted. To this day, Dylan and Mia stand by their account, while Alan continues to proclaim his innocence. Even Moses Farrow, one of Mia's children, later accused his mother of emotional and physical abuse, deepening the tragedy and confusion. What's undeniable is this: that period of Mia Farrow's life was not only a media frenzy, it was a crucible of pain, resilience, and a kind of moral reckoning that few people, celebrity or not, could endure in full view of the world. Aftershocks and advocacy. In the wake of the scandal, Mia Farrow could have disappeared into silence. Many would have. The relentless public scrutiny, the intense legal battles, and the trauma of betrayal would have broken anyone, but not Mia. Instead of allowing the controversy with Woody Allen to define her, she turned her energy towards something far more meaningful: her children, her activism, and her legacy as more than just a headline. Despite the devastating custody battle, she focused on healing her fractured family. In the years following her split with Alan, Mia went on to adopt 5 more children: Tam, Kaylee Shea, later known as Quincy, Frankie Min, Isaiah, and Gabriel, later called Thaddeus. These children, from diverse backgrounds and often born into difficult circumstances, became the heart of her life. But as much as she poured love into motherhood, sorrow still found its way to her doorstep. 3 of Mia's adopted children have tragically passed away. Tam died of heart failure in 2000. Lark, one of her earliest adoptions with Andre Previn, passed on Christmas Day in 2008 due to complications from HIV. And in 2016, Thaddeus died by suicide, a devastating loss for a mother who had already endured more grief than most. In 2018, Moses Farrow, Mia's son, wrote a blog post claiming that she had been the abusive parent, not Woody Allen. His claims divided even more public opinion and added layers of emotional complexity to a story already overflowing with heartache and blurred truths. When we look back at Mia Farrow's life, it's easy to become overwhelmed by the sheer number of tragedies, betrayals, and heartbreaks. And yet, for all the darkness, Mia has been a light, sometimes flickering, sometimes blazing, but always present. What often gets lost in the salacious headlines is this: Mia Farrow is a woman who made choices based on love. Love for her children. Love for the truth. Love for humanity. Whether she was testifying in courtrooms, walking into war zones, or raising children others had abandoned, she acted with an iron will softened by compassion. And for a woman who endured betrayal from the men closest to her, fathers, lovers, husbands, she never allowed bitterness to define her. Instead, she turned her personal wounds into fuel for a broader mission. In the decades since the scandals of the early 90s, Mia has worked tirelessly with UNICEF and other humanitarian organizations to combat childhood diseases, hunger, and the effects of war. One cause, in particular, strikes a deeply personal chord: polio. After all, it nearly stole her own childhood. And years later, it would take the legs of her son Thaddeus. But Mia didn't let the disease have the last word. She campaigned for vaccines, for access to medical care, for the most vulnerable. It wasn't just advocacy, it was redemption. Even in her friendships, we see a woman drawn to empathy. Mia was close with Sharon Tate, who was brutally murdered in the infamous Manson killings. Their bond was special, both were pregnant around the same time, both involved in Roman Polanski's world. Mia was reportedly devastated by Sharon's death. It was one more loss in a life filled with them. And still, she kept going. She kept acting. Kept speaking out. Kept building a legacy not rooted in scandal, but in service. While critics dissected her past, she kept showing up for those with no one else. The legacy of Mia Farrow. So what do we make of Mia Farrow? A Hollywood princess who walked into traffic on a director's word, just to get the shot. A mother who built a family from the shattered pieces of her own. A woman wronged, repeatedly, but never broken. She was, and is, far more than the sum of her tragedies. She's proof that even when your life falls apart in public, you can still choose to rise in private. And maybe that's the real heart of Mia Farrow's legacy, not the awards or the headlines, but the quiet, defiant strength to keep going. To protect the vulnerable. To live with dignity, even when the world refuses to grant it. If this story moved you, please take a moment to like, share, and subscribe. These stories deserve to be heard, not because they're dramatic, but because they remind us of the strength we all carry. Thank you for watching. And remember, behind every beautiful face, there is often a battle you can't see. Be kind, stay strong, and we'll see you in the next video.